Hello and welcome to Americans Talk Australian Survivor. I'm Rachel.
I'm Leah.
And I'm Matt.
Thanks for joining us. We just watched episode 24, the season finale of Australian Survivor Brains vs. Brawn 2, and there will be spoilers ahead. We open up on day 46, and we see our final three. We have Miles, AJ, and Kaylin ready to take on the final three.
Wow. I mean, I just cannot believe it. These three made it. The three friends made it. It's wonderful.
Miles mentioned that his goal was just to make it to merge, and
Right.
Kaylin says, well, of course my goal was to win.
Yeah.
So it's funny that Miles really just went into this game, it seems like, just to have fun, and he seems just as surprised as anyone else that he did so well.
Right.
Right.
And it was nice to hear Kaylin said that these are his best friends. You know, he really, really likes AJ and Miles.
Yeah, it's fun to see a friendship make it all the way to the end. That I can't remember the last time it happened that, you know, a core alliance of real friends made it this far, 46 days.
Right,
Yeah, well,
because something always fails.
Right. And later on in the episode, Jonathan said, first time three men and from the same tribe. So congratulations on these three. But I thought it was interesting. Kaylin and Miles are reflecting while AJ says, well, there's three brains because of me. He controlled the thing.
Right.
But he needs Kaylin to win immunity so that he can go to the final two.
And Kaylin was even already discussing that it's going to be such a tough choice for him, who he takes with him once he wins the necklace. And I thought it was kind of funny that everyone has just assumed that Kaylin has won. No one's even thinking that anyone else could win.
Yeah.
Everyone is just going into the day with the assumption that Kaylin will come out with a necklace, and how is anyone else going to win?
Right. But I did hear Kaylin say that he was loyal to AJ.
Oh, yeah. He's saying that.
He's definitely on AJ's side.
We'll see how that plays out in the rest of the episode. So it's time for the final immunity challenge. Very exciting to make it to this point. And interestingly, it's in the woods this time. We've seen it, you know, on a cliff with the
Oh, that was
waves
horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely horrible. I
And
think
we've
that was
seen
the
it
first one.
replicate
That
In the
was
rain,
horrible.
wasn't it raining or something? Or the waves were
yes,
coming
it
in?
was,
And,
and it was cold. It was
that
horrible.
And this
that
looks
was-
like a more peaceful place. They're just standing on their pegs in the woods. But before they get started, we get to meet the families.
And friends.
So Miles brings out his friend Ollie, who he said is his Survivor friend, who he always messages about Survivor. So I thought that was fun that
Right.
he's bringing his friend into the game. His friend gets to go to Samoa
Sure.
and, you know, meet
Right.
JLP.
I'm sure he
I'm
was
wondering-
thrilled. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if maybe Miles opted to take his friend over, you know, like a parent or sibling or someone that wasn't as much of a fan of the show because he knew how much it meant to his friend. So
Sure.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yes. It'd be
yeah, that'd be
wonderful.
awesome.
A great way.
If anyone wants to take any of us as your
Yeah.
friend on the final three.
It's a great way to see Survivor and still be able to take a shower.
Sure.
And then AJ brings out his friend, Nabil. And I was surprised by that as well. I thought AJ was married or maybe even had kids. I thought he mentioned that. But I guess if he did, maybe they weren't available. I don't know.
Right. I guess it is a big commitment, right? If you're married and have young children, maybe you can't take them.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't remember. And then Kaylin brought his mother. Aw. She was nice
Yeah.
to meet her.
Lydia, yep, very nice. She was very proud.
Yeah.
They
well,
did
she-
mention that Kaylin never gets emotional. And I was thinking, really?
But he's also starving, so maybe that's it.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, you know, how the players' families interpret them and how we view them as, you know, as the audience on the show. So it was very fun to see everyone's loved ones come out. And it's always interesting to see kind of where people come from and what their relationships are like. So I did notice as they're going to sit down, though, Miles tells his friend he found an idol and played it correctly. He only mentioned one. So I guess Miles is still trying to be secretive and sneaky and wants his friend to be surprised when he finds out how many idols Miles played.
Makes it more fun
So
to
that was
watch.
fun.
Right, yeah, his friend will be surprised.
So then it's time for the players to get in position. And this looks uncomfortable. They're on their little pegs as we expected, but instead of something coming up from the ceiling trying to crush them down or whatever it's been in the past, they just have to like hold on to the bamboo on the side. But Miles is like in a full stretch to hold on to the bamboo sides. I feel like it was really tough for him compared to everyone else.
Right. Again, it's not based on their body type.
Right.
It's
Right.
just based on measurements or whatever, which doesn't seem fair because he definitely was struggling just to hold on early on.
Well, later on, he says something to AJ that not all of us have skanky long legs or something like that.
Yeah.
He did, yeah.
But I thought it was interesting. Everyone took their own approach. AJ's talking. Kaylin is not talking. He's staying focused. And Miles is extremely flexible. That's what I saw.
Right.
But 2 hours in, I can't believe it was 2 hours in. Oh, no, first they had the 1 hour.
An hour on the first page.
Yeah, then they moved to the second stage, which is unbelievable. Then they were still there 2 hours. I mean, I bet the producers didn't think they'd be there that long.
I was thinking, I remember it's gone on for like 6 hours at some
really?
point.
That's what
So
I recalled that too. The sun went down.
Oh, yes.
it felt short to me.
Right. And AJ
As
said he's
someone
staying. He's got nowhere to go.
Right, he kept talking about that. He's
Yeah.
staying to the end.
But it
And
was weird.
AJ's
Oh, go ahead, Rachel.
Oh, AJ was trying to butter up Kaylin. He was telling his mom, "Oh, he's so great. He's so cool."
Everyone loves him.
Trying to manipulate Kaylin.
Yeah.
As Kaylin's trying to win this challenge for the both of them.
But the live transfer going from one to the other just seemed unusually difficult, right?
Especially for Miles.
Right.
Yeah.
That it wasn't an easy thing to do. And I understand that there's no sense making it easy and you want to have an opportunity for someone to drop out by doing it. But it wasn't. Miles could barely reach the bamboo and have his feet on the little pegs.
Yeah.
Just didn't seem right to me.
So we saw Miles struggling for quite a while, and eventually he drops out at 2 hours and 25 minutes.
Wow, that was crazy. Congratulations, Miles. That's an incredible feat.
Which I feel like it's 2 hours and 24 minutes more than I could do probably, right?
Yeah.
I was watching him and I was saying, Miles, you've got to stay in there.
Right. He looked so uncomfortable, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He did.
Yeah. So when he dropped out, I thought to myself, well, that's it. Kaylin wins, takes AJ to the end, and AJ wins the game. Done.
Right. Yeah.
Over. I can turn off my TV.
Well, AJ is talking to Kaylin saying, I'll take you to the end, if you want to drop out or whatever. But at 2 hours and 30 minutes, they moved to the fourth peg. And this was really far away. And I saw that Miles is trying to help Kaylin. Did you notice that?
Yes, he was. And Kaylin's mom was helping too. Lydia was helping.
Yeah. And then 3 hours in, AJ's in a lot of pain and asks Kaylin to give up.
What's interesting about this is Kaylin looks at him and doesn't even say anything.
No.
Doesn't even say no. He just completely ignores him. And AJ's sitting there chatting and chatting and chatting.
Yeah.
He's talking to the families. He's talking to Kaylin.
Right.
So it was very interesting to see Kaylin just lock in and ignore everyone else as his mom told him to do.
Right, but it's not like we've seen that before in this season too. Not necessarily with Kaylin, but with the women when they were holding on. Some women didn't even move.
Yeah, they're so focused.
Right, just
Correct.
like so into it that not even budge while other people are dropping. So, if you can do it, that's fantastic. If you can get in that zone,
a good strategy from Kaylin. And it paid off because eventually AJ slips. It looks like he wasn't really giving up. He just slipped and stumbled, and he was out of the challenge, giving Kaylin his 7th immunity win.
Wow, unbelievable. So I thought it was nice. Kaylin picks up AJ and carries him over to the area, which was very nice. And the three of them hug, which, I just like how I really think they do generally like each other.
Right.
Right? It's nice to see three friends like this. I just thought that was really nice. And then Kaylin starts crying because this is going to be tough. Yeah.
7 immunity wins.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a new record that
right now another one.
He smashed the old record held by
himself.
Kaylin.
I think Kaylin picking up AJ and carrying him over, I think it was meant to be nice and supportive, but I was looking at it thinking Kaylin's kind of showing off, saying, I'll carry you over. You can't walk, but I'm good. I don't know
my feet are fine,
them
right?
could walk. Yeah, how did they do that? That was crazy. How could you possibly walk?
Kaylin had no problem.
Right.
Yeah, I was as I was watching that, I was wondering, what did Miles do after he got off? Did he sit there and massage his feet for a half hour? Or did he, rub them in the sand? Was he able to put them in the water? You don't know.
Right,
It's interesting.
I feel like we've seen in the past the families will come over and help them over to the bench. And then you kind of sit on the bench. I don't think you get to wander around, do anything you want. But then we go straight into tribal. There's no pitching themselves back at camp. We go straight to tribal.
Right.
Surprising.
Yeah. And because sometimes I think we've seen that in the past where they have to go straight to tribal because the sun has already set and there's no time, but they didn't take that long compared to other seasons, so there was time to go back to camp before the sunset. But we didn't see what happened there, so we go into tribal, and now we start the pitches.
Yeah, but did you see before that they started clapping for Zara, and Zara, no emotion, straight face, nothing.
She was not happy.
You know?
She looked mad.
Yeah, they're clapping for her, nothing. They got nothing back.
But it frequently seems that they're your first night in tribal. The first tribal you go to, you look mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she should be mad. I mean, she was under the impression she was making fire last night, and she didn't even get the shot. So
Right. Yes.
I would be mad if I were her as well.
Yes. She was prepared.
Yeah. Well, we get into the players pitching themselves to Kalen as to why he should take them to the final two. And what was kind of funny here is that they're really pitching why the other person is a better player. Because they're saying, you know, Kalen has promised both of us the final two, so he's going to have to break some promise. And Miles is saying, you know, AJ is so good at the game, you can totally beat me. And then AJ's like, no, Miles is the best player. He's beaten 6 records. And so it's very interesting to see how right now they're pitching the other person, and then tomorrow night they're going to be pitching themselves. So it's kind of a weird situation.
Yeah, Miles said he has 26 votes against him. I was impressed that he added them up and could remember the number.
Oh. No, I'm not. I think Miles remembers every
but
detail of every
But each
survivor.
day, you know, and then you get 2 more the next day, and then, you know, I don't know.
I also thought when AJ was listing off the many things that Miles has done for the 6 records, he said the Jungle Rat is a historical player, and I have to say I agree with them. I think he's right, that Miles is going to stand out as one of the best players.
Right.
So
I think we'll be talking about him in future seasons.
Yeah. So then AJ's talking to Kalen. They're all talking, and AJ says, you know what? You have to go with your heart to Kalen. And then Kalen asks the two, AJ and Miles, for a talk, which I thought was interesting. They walked away and talked privately.
Right. That they didn't talk just in front of everybody, that he didn't just say what he was thinking. But that was interesting that he did that.
Yeah, it sounds like he just wanted advice from his friends, which is understandable because this is a huge point in the game. However, it's not, you can't ask these friends.
Right. And
so he said, I haven't made up a decision. I haven't made up my mind. Can you help me?
And
you want us to
yeah, that's what AJ said. You want us to pick?
Right. You're kind of running out of time here.
Yeah, but I was so surprised. I feel like, you know, obviously people are going to waver one way or the other, but I was really shocked that he had no decision. He really had no idea who he was taking at that point in the game when it was like seconds before he had to choose.
I think it was just so difficult for him.
Yeah.
It would have been interesting to see some of that back at camp, of him contemplating it.
Exactly, because I'm sure they pitched themselves at that point, and, you know, he had some time alone to think about it. So I would be curious to see his thought process. He really didn't tell us. We just know that he's really close friends with both of them, but he didn't tell us why he wants to take either one to the end or what he's hesitant about. But I was kind of getting the impression as we were watching, I was thinking, I feel like Kalen is taking their friendship too seriously, because I feel he obviously really values their friendship, and it's a very important relationship to him, which is wonderful. But at this last point in the game, you have to make the decision for yourself, and then you can be friends outside the game. And I feel like Kalen is having trouble separating the gameplay from the friendship at this point.
Yes.
I wish he would have been able to do that a little bit differently.
But he makes his vote, and then
he votes out.
As the jury gasps because they can't believe it.
He votes out AJ. I couldn't believe it.
Why?
I
was
was
so upset.
I thought for sure it was Miles.
Oh, I know Matt Clam, but I was like, no, AJ.
It seemed like he should have taken AJ. He seemed to have a better relationship with him. And then maybe he just thinks, well, I have a better shot of winning, right? That's the idea, to win the game, right? One of your 2 friends is going to be mad at you. Mm-hmm. I might as well win the game, at least play the game. They should respect that, right? So I'm going to play who I think I can beat. And so he keeps Miles. But AJ was very good about it. He seemed very happy, you know, so excited to have gotten that far. So good for him for not AJ was pouting.
Yeah, AJ was comforting Kalen.
Yeah,
right.
So just voted him out. But yeah, I guess thinking back on it, I consider AJ and Kalen to be very well aligned throughout the game, and every move that AJ did, it seems like he usually used Kalen as a number. Everything that Kalen did, AJ was a part of. Whereas Miles, he was very closely associated with those two, but he made his own crazy moves at other parts in the game. And I feel like Kalen separating himself a little bit from AJ may have been good for his game because he was able to, or he could have been able to pitch some of AJ's moves as his own because AJ wasn't there to, take credit for it at the jury, I guess, or at the final tribal. But I am wondering now, maybe Kalen knew deep down that he was going to take Miles, and that's why he was like, I can't decide, I don't know, because he knew what he wanted to do, but was having trouble kind of expressing it, kind of looking back on that weird little combo between the three of them. Anyway, AJ is the final member of the jury.
And Miles made it to the end.
Yeah, Kalen and Miles are the final two. Very exciting.
It is very exciting. Very, very. This whole episode was just, woohoo, so exciting.
But it was interesting that you said, Leah, that the jury gasped. Like
they all did. No one thought he was going to take Miles.
They never thought they would take Miles. Right. That was just funny to me that they all did that. It was like it was staged almost. Like,
All right. So then it's day 47, and now they show a little bit of them talking, but then they go back to tribal.
Well, the most exciting thing about day 47 was Miles had on what looked like a new outfit. I had never seen whatever he was wearing before.
Some different pants.
I don't know where he got that from. But
I guess I didn't notice.
He was dressed up on day 47. And they had their feast. They're recapping their games. And now it's time for their final tribal.
Wow.
So they start out with their individual pitch. And Kalen goes first. I think he did a really nice job. He's talking about his physical game, which obviously we all know about. And then he mentions that his social game was so good that he was able to get information from other people. And I think he made a really good start to the pitch. I was like, okay, I see where he's going with this. He could have something here. Then Miles gets to give his pitch, and he also did a very nice job talking about his strategy, talking about playing from the bottom and how difficult that was. And at this point, after the individual pitches before the Q&A, I'm thinking it could get close here.
Right. I was thinking there's 8 people in the jury. It could be a 4-4 tie.
Yeah.
Could you see going to fire for $1 million?
Oh.
Yeah, that'd be wild. $500,000.
$500,000, sorry.
But then we get into the Q&A with the jury. So this is where I think Kalen kind of stumbled a little bit. At one point, he was asked about, what is he least proud of in the game? And he said he's least proud of voting out his friends. And that's not really, I don't know, that's the game, is that you vote out your friends. You can't be not proud of that because you had to do it to get there. I feel like he was kind of saying things, and he said, he wouldn't change anything. And I don't think he was giving answers that the jury wanted at that point.
Right.
I feel like this is the point for me where Kalen kind of lost the game.
Right. You need to say, at that one point I doubted somebody and I didn't vote with this way and it would have changed this and it would have helped. Right. You come up with a specific instead of just I voted out my friends. Everybody voted out their friends.
Right.
At the number 2.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go back real quickly. Kalen said he was a golden retriever. I never heard that before, so I thought that was interesting to hear.
Now,
did you guys ever heard that before?
Did he just consider himself the golden retriever?
I think he said they recall. I don't know.
But it was good that he did say that he was doing everything, getting coconuts, which he was, and building the fires, and people were strategizing right in front of him. And,
that was interesting,
and
too.
Sort of ignored him. So that was good.
And then how Miles was talking about he always played from the bottom, and he acknowledged that he had personality flaws.
Yeah, they kind of ripped into him for that. We saw on the recap of his game, there are a lot of instances of people yelling at him for his personality specifically.
So I guess he knows he does. And later on during this, he did say he took that to heart and changed.
And he did. He did listen to people.
Right.
I remember, was it Logan maybe kept telling him, or maybe it was Zara.
You're talking too much?
One of them told him, just calm down. And I
remember
he did
Zara, for a while.
Yeah, I remember Zara yelling, stop talking, stop talking.
But remember when they switched tribes, he just wouldn't stop. They just showed him just walking around, just talking about everything.
Oh, it was horrible.
I'm like, he's never going to make it.
And here he is at the final too. Who would have guessed? One other thing that Kalen harped on a lot at the final tribal was that he had a very reproducible game. And in his eyes, the sole survivor should have a reproducible game where you do the same strategy every time and you're always going to come out on top at the final two and possibly even the winner.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's a very
scientific.
Yeah, it's a very scientific approach, but unfortunately, I feel like he sort of misunderstood the game here because the game isn't to be reproducible. The game is to outwit, outlast, outplay by any means necessary, really.
Right.
It's not. So I feel like the jury wasn't really clinging on to that as much as I think he wanted it to. So I feel like that was a bit of a disconnect between him and the jury.
Yeah, I think it was the wrong thing to say, because if it were just being able to do the same thing each time, then it'd be kind of boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The jury wants to see.
Kalen came out very strong with his pitch. Very, very good pitch. But like you said, when it came to the questions, he couldn't answer them as well as Miles.
Yeah, I think that almost speaks also to Miles' love of the game. He knows he's watched so many Final Tribals, I'm sure. And I don't know if Kalen is as much of a fan of the game, but we know for sure that Miles studies the game. He has his spreadsheets out, so he probably knew exactly what the jury wanted to hear.
Well, what I really liked about the questions from the jury was AJ. I'm going to tell you.
Delusional?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you you're both delusional and what your mistakes were for throwing away $500,000. I thought that was great.
Miles, your speech was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, wasn't it very interesting? He said that Kalen should have dropped both Miles and AJ because he said, you don't really know what a shield is. And you should have picked anyone you thought that you could have beat. And I think AJ was right. You don't keep the two people who are very, very good. Pick someone who you could probably win against.
Right.
What do you guys think?
I agree, but would Kalen have been able to, I guess by winning immunity, he would have been able to keep advancing and advancing.
Right. And then pick some people that maybe weren't doing as much.
Right. So he kind of like joined the group of the strong guys and then stayed with them.
Yeah. But I'm happy he did that because I just love seeing the three of them together at the end. So.
Yeah, I think Kalen, unfortunately, didn't really get a good opportunity to do that because I'm thinking about like the final five. We had Zara and Kate, who were both really strong players as well. So I think it was by the time the thought would have crossed his mind, it was almost too late for it. I think he also, he takes this friendship so seriously. So he would have had to cut them at maybe like final 8, final 7 would have been a good time for him to kind of break free from this group. And I think that it would have been very difficult for him emotionally to make that separation.
Right. AJ said at 4 and 5. And so I think he did have the opportunity to do it, as I recall.
Oh, I'm sure there were a lot of people who wanted Miles for sure. And I had forgotten that AJ was throwing those challenges. I forgot I was very mad at AJ for throwing those challenges.
Right. And
it's a good thing he's not in the final two.
Well, I still liked AJ.
They talked about that in the show open, the cool recap that they had.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if Kalen were to break free of Miles and AJ at final 5 and final 4, he would have ended up next to Kate or Zara, who were still really good players. So could he have beaten either of those two? I don't know.
I'm not positive of that because they had a lot of friends.
Yeah. It was nice, though, to see that we didn't really have anyone in the jury like very overtly rooting for just one of them, which we've seen a lot in the past where they say, you, my friend, tell us all of your great things, and then I'm going to ask the one I don't want to win something bad.
Exactly. Yeah,
that was
nice.
It felt like, it felt watching it like the vote could really go either way. I felt like every juror seemed open.
Right.
That's why I was saying it could be 4-4. Like, wow, what are they going to do?
So then it is time to vote for the final time.
Wow.
And I was on the edge of my seat. I didn't know which way it was going to go.
And when AJ was running to vote, I'm like, who is he going to vote for?
And I said Miles. I said that he was going to vote for Miles, that AJ would vote for Miles because he knows the game that he played. And he knew that it couldn't be the two of them at the end, right? He didn't want to
know that.
He didn't want to be sitting next.
You're right.
Yep.
You're right.
So that's why he had to vote for Miles, even though he, put him down, your speech was no good.
Well, they read out the votes, they bring in the families, and we see one vote for Miles, and we see one vote for Kalen, and then every vote after is for Miles, making him the winner of Brains versus Brawn 2.
Wow.
Right.
Congratulations, Miles. And Matt's
$500,000.
Matt, probably should get some money for picking Miles to the
Write the
star.
template, see if they can spare
right.
a $250,000.
Just checking out the webpage, and then I look at them, and I'm like, that guy says he plays strategically, and he has spreadsheets. I think he's going to win.
All right, Hungry Jack, how about sending some hamburgers over here to the United States for Matt picking Miles? Woo. Or what is a car that always...
Isuzu.
Oh, yeah, the Isuzu.
All right, you can send us a car over here, too. We'll make sure that Matt gets it for picking Miles.
That would be fantastic.
So,
thank you all. I'd like to thank you all for believing in me.
We'll take some Australian love over here in the United States, but just the three of us.
Right.
Yeah, did Hungry Jack's even sponsor an episode?
I didn't see
No,
that.
they haven't. No one seemed to sponsor this time. Oh, IKEA. I forgot about IKEA.
Yeah, we love Hungry Jack's. We eat Burger King over here.
Yeah.
It looks just like Hungry Jack's. We always get a kick out of seeing them. So it's too bad they didn't advertise this season.
Right.
Maybe next time.
Remember the IKEA episode? I slept on an IKEA pillow.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Well, the car was the best.
Right.
I mean, I think the Joker won that. There was a couple times that happened, but I remember one the Joker won.
Right.
So
that's a good win.
This was an excellent season. I mean, right? Don't you think? I mean, Australian Survivor casts such great people.
Right. Excellent characters. Right.
I do wish we had a little bit of a reunion after they read the final votes.
It ended abruptly.
It just ended with Miles just walking towards the camera. I'm like, what are they showing? And it wasn't like the first.
That was like an old.
Was it the first time that he walked onto the island or something? I don't know. It would just be fun if they just ended with their videos of how they tried to get on.
Oh, their audition tape.
Yeah, the audition tape. Yeah. That would be pretty neat, just to end with the winner's audition tape or something, and then fade to black. But it was just kind of an odd. Well, we'll just put this shot here.
Well, I wanted to hear what Kaylin had to say, and I wanted to hear what the jury had to say. You know, I wanted a little live reunion. So it was too bad we didn't get to see that, but maybe they'll release something later on. We'll keep an eye out. But I would be interested to hear what everyone else thought about this winner. Obviously, they voted for him, so everyone but Kristen voted for Miles. But still, it would be interesting to see.
Yes, well,
a little discussion.
Congratulations to all the players. It was just fantastic. Fantastic season.
It was. And now it's time for our cast and crew party to wrap up the season.
Yeah. So thank you all so much for listening to us this season, our third season doing the podcast. And let us know what you would like to see differently for next time.
Yes, we're going to be on next. I mean, it's going to be shortly, right? The fourth season's coming up.
Yeah, so I think the Australia versus the world, I think I read that it might be like a mini series. It may not be the full length, but we will be back for that.
Okay. Well, I'm voting for Australia. I'm telling you right away.
You don't even know
I'm already
who's playing.
voting off. No, I know, and I'm voting for Australia. These guys are my favorites. And Luke's coming back.
Yep.
King George. I mean, this is great.
I know.
Kirby.
Yeah.
We've heard rumors that the season will start in July, so we will be back with our predictions going into the Australia versus the world in a few months. But until then, please let us know what you liked about the podcast, what you wish we did differently. We're always looking for feedback and would love to know what you would like to see more of for next season. So don't forget to follow us on Instagram at ATA Survivor, TikTok at ATA Survivor, and send us an email at ataustraliansurvivor@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought about the season. Thank you, and we had such a great time this season. Thank you everyone who joined us to listen to Brains vs. Brawn 2. We had a blast recapping it, and we'll see you in July.
And we really appreciate, once again, you taking the time to listen to us. Thank you.
Right, and thank you for following us. See you soon.
Bye.